These were honest criticisms given by people,
I think
I've
had enough of this. I've had weeks of this. I think I'll just call it a day,
All right. Well, Miriam, you're still with us, so you have read the book.
He's done that deliberately, of course.
Well, I know that, because you sell more books, perhaps.
No, he's also done it deliberately because I worked as a member of the This Is Your Life team for 3 years, and I know that everything Tom said is untrue. And if he wants to go away and leave it, well, then that's fine.
Well,
and we don't need him on the show.
If Tom...
I mean, he's done this. It's so classic. He's walked out hoping in some way this will fall apart.
Okay. If Tom had stayed throughout this interview,
the reason he hasn't
I would have
stayed,
said to him, though, Miriam, I would have said to him at the end, well done. You know, you came into the lion's den. You are espousing an unpopular point of view. Well done. You had the courage to stay here.
The reason,
of course, will not be saying that.
Yes, that's fine. But the fact that he's walked out is because he knows that there's somebody here who actually worked with Eamon as his team member. And everything Tom says, I couldn't find one thing in this book to remind me of the Eamon Andrews I knew. And I don't say that as somebody who loved Eamon Andrews blandly. I went to work as an Irish girl who never knew Eamon Andrews on This Is Your Life, employed by people who had nothing to do with Eamon Andrews, and I met him, and he was a charming, kind, warm, helpful, lovable man.
Right.
And this book is just the work of a bitter man.
Normally, what will happen, if I don't have someone from a political party, I will take the side.
That's fine. You're going to have to be Tom Brennan, I'm afraid.
I'm going to be Tom Brennan.
Absolutely.
And I will put it to you
that
Eamon Andrews had a social phobia. He was terrified of meeting people. That's in this book.
You see, my theory is that if Eamon had read this book, he would have been so annoyed initially that he would have gotten really angry. Then he would have laughed. Because, I mean, if the man has a social phobia disease, how did he manage? After every This Is Your Life show, we had a party, a wonderful party, and everybody came in, all the guests, the showbiz people, and he mingled and mixed with everybody. I never had a problem with conversation with Eamon. Tom in his book writes about a time we all went to Hollywood. The fact is Tom never went to Hollywood. The reason he never went to Hollywood is because Eamon couldn't talk to Tom. Tom Brennan was impossible to work with. Nobody could work with Tom. Unfortunately, he isn't here, and I could have said that to him if he was here, but he was a very difficult man to work with, and Eamon wasn't the difficult man.
There are accusations that Eamon suffered from homophobia, that he couldn't bear to associate in any way with homosexuals.
Which again is untrue, because you see, the truth about the matter is that Tom actually didn't work with This Is Your Life up to the end, and before Eamon died. He actually had been dropped by Thames Television. The reason being, and if he was here again I would say to him, was because he was so difficult. No one, and in particular Eamon, couldn't work with him. All of the This Is Your Life team have remained my friends, and in particular 2 guys who were both gay, who both worked very closely with Eamon, and when they knew I was coming on tonight, they both phoned me this morning and said, please tell Tom Brennan and Ireland that Eamon did not have any reaction to homosexuality. He was a kind man. He wasn't like that.
There are stories that there were ready-ups, that some of the guests on This Is Your Life actually knew in advance.
Again, well, you see, I can only talk about the people I worked on, but the nature of the programme is that if you research the programmes, you were the person most closely associated with the people. And in Tom's book, he talks about Bob Geldof, and in particular, Bob Geldof did not know about his life. As far as I am concerned, Bob didn't know. Paula Yates planned to keep the secret. She always wanted to keep the secret, and as far as we were concerned, the show Bob never knew. He also talks about a woman called Alice Faye we did in Hollywood. He said that the production team, and in particular the lady researcher, me, knew. Again, I never knew. And I mean, Alice Faye never knew, so it's not true.
What about meanness? That Eamon was a mean man.
Well, again, you can only talk within your own experience. I mean, he, every Christmas and Easter, gave all the women in the office champagne, which is true. Tom tries to use that against Eamon because he says the fact that he gave champagne to the women in Irish gin, which seems to be extremely derogatory to the men, was in some way scathing. I love my bottle of champagne. I always drank it, and he always wrote a very personal note to everyone in the office on green ink, because he always wrote in green ink for Ireland.
There was a question about being a liar. There were times when, to stay at the peak he reached comparatively early in his career, sadly he found he had to lie, even to cheat. Although over the years he appeared to become disposed to such a degree of self-deception that he was able to persuade himself either that he was not committing any such transgressions, or he was entirely justified in doing so if he did. And there's more about lying, you know, that he not getting caught in the lie was the most important thing.
Yeah, well, you see, I don't think that's true. I mean, Tom would have said, which I will say for him if he was here, that Eamon and the production team always knew that most of the people were aware that they were about to be surprised. And the one thing I always believed, and I think I have to have some credibility, is that the people we researched didn't know, and if they ever did know, we dropped them. We wouldn't dream of doing somebody who thought that their life was being done. And Eamon in particular would never do that. And he uses things like, if you have cavalcades, which is if you did a star, you brought home, say, 12 people from the West End to pay them a tribute. I mean, that was just a tribute from people in the West End who would respect the star. That wasn't a lie or a deceit. It was just part of doing a television programme.
Getting back to this whole business of Eamon, though, and not being able to talk to people, for example, on a train journey.
Yeah.
You couldn't, he ran out of conversation, ran out of ideas.
Well, we all did 11 hours to Hollywood with Eamon, and we had no trouble talking to him. Tom didn't make that journey because he was too difficult to work with.
There's a story that someone in the programme used to make a record of the gaffes committed by Eamon.
Yeah, that's one thing I would have said to Tom. One of my best friends in the programme was a PA called Irene Clark, who also spoke to me before this programme, who was a lovely PA and has been there all the way. And what she used to do is when Eamon said something funny in a meeting, which he often did, she wrote it down, but only for herself and Eamon, and he kept them because he wanted them to keep, to preserve. Tom says that the reason she did make those notes was she wanted to show to new people on the show what a bit of a Burke Eamon was, which is, again, just not true.
What did the production team think of the book, those that you have been in touch with? You've mentioned the two gays who rang you and this PA. Generally, what did they think of it?
Well, I think one of the things that hurt me was I read a review by Éanna Brophy in the Sunday Press, I think, and he quite rightly said that we sounded like a begrudging team who made Eamon, really sad because we were so cruel to him behind his back. Not true. He inspired loyalty, which Tom does admit. But the reason he inspired loyalty was because he was so incredibly nice. And I mean, one of the things I liked about him was after every show there would be lots of showbiz stars. But he never bothered just to talk to the showbiz stars. He always used to come in and talk to Annie and Bernie, who were the Irish waitresses working there, and say, what did you think of the show? He wasn't at all impressed by show business. But that's something to be nice. I mean, something I felt I liked about the man.
Yeah. Now, there is probably element of truth throughout the book. I mean, things...
I don't know where the element of truth is. I mean, I know it's very difficult for you because you've not now got to be devil's advocate.
No, I was just contemplating if someone
of
wrote about my life, and hopefully they'll never bother.
They probably will.
But if they were to gather together all the odd things that I did, the time I lost the head in the radio studio or the time I made a fool of myself,
well, I think one of the things he washed his hair before he went to the barbers, but the reason he told me he did that was because they put this revolting shampoo in his hair in the hairdressers, not because he was too mean to buy the shampoo. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that was a reason for it.
I'm not sure whether Tom, I know he's still around.
He's going to come back on.
If he'd
I
like
wish
to
he would
come
come on, Tom, because you know I don't dislike you.
Tom, are you there? I think the audience would like you to come back on. I mean, we will try to be fair if you're there. Tom, I'm glad that you didn't...
May I say, I've just been listening to the most sanctimonious load of crap I've ever heard in my life.
I knew you'd say that, Tom.
Right, carry on. I mean, we've heard... I try to represent
this whole deal is loaded for a start, and you know it. All those statements you made at the video... Pardon?
Why is it loaded?
Because you're Irish, you say.
Yeah, well, why is it loaded?
What's being Irish got to do with that? Or has that got everything to do with it?
But you seem to think that you're just being attacked because you're in Dublin.
Yeah, I've been attacked in Liverpool as well as Dublin. Miriam, I think she was talking about social phobia.
Yeah, I did.
And she's read the book.
I have. Parts of it made me laugh. I mean, I'm not totally attacking you, Tom. No, I'm not, actually. I'm just attacking the view you portray of Eamon, which isn't the man I knew. You know I like you. I've always liked you.
You didn't know him very long.
So I'm not attacking. I knew him 3 years, which is long enough to know somebody, Tom.
I didn't know him very long.
Long enough to know somebody.
Social phobia, which affects 2 in every 100 women, and and as many men at some time in their life.
Yeah, there is a disease called social phobia.
Thank you, Miriam.
But Eamon didn't have it. But there is a disease, I checked it up.
You think that was a lie then? You think I invented social phobia before you checked it up? And social phobia is a disease suffered by extroverts, more by extroverts than by, or condition, let's call it, than by non-extroverts. And it's of people who are frightened of meeting strangers who will be able to talk to people en masse or in the studio and can go to parties because there are a lot of people there. And you know Miriam very well, if you knew Eamon at all, that he would not go into a room with a few people there. He would go into a room with a lot of people there. And these parties you talked about, you will recall that he stood by the door all the time.
But he took Annie and burning the Irish waitresses. No, he didn't stand by the door, Tom. You see, what I think, the element of truth, actually... Can I just say one thing? If there is an element of truth in the book, there is... It is true to say that Eamon was a shy man. But for me, the most appealing attribute Eamon Andrews had was that he was a shy, reserved man. He was appealing in that way, and that's why I particularly liked him. You use his virtues to attack him.
I don't at all.
You do a bit. You say the reason he was shy was he should never be on television. I think
didn't
in a world
say
where
that
television
at all.
personality...
I made the very point that it was remarkable a man who was so shy and retiring as Eamon Andrews had been such a great success in television.
That's why he's so appealing, but he didn't have a disease called social phobia.
Pardon?
He doesn't have a disease called social phobia.
He
was shy and reserved.
He did.
Well, Tom, you're the only person who's ever heard of this disease, because neither Grania, his family, nor I, nor the production team have ever heard of it. I'm sorry, but he didn't. He was shy, and that was lovely.
If you know anything about social phobia, you'll know that
I've done a lot of research on it over the past 24 hours.
Jesus, will you shut up, girl, while I speak? You'll know that most people... Thank you for the gentle applause. You know that they get over social phobia in their 20s, right?
If they had it.
Well, if they had it.
Fine.
Well, you knew him then in his 20s, I presume.
I know, but
You're
Grania
looking
did.
very well on it, I must
Grania
say.
did.
Hang on, there is a serious element here, because the man's reputation, which was pristine, I think you'd admit, Tom. In fact, you talk about that, you know...
I don't think it was pristine with the man he sacked while he was suffering from the effects of open heart surgery. That wasn't pristine, was it?
Who did he sack?
I'm not going to... You want me to name somebody? I'd get myself into trouble?
Well,
I'm in enough trouble, aren't I?
See,
people like you.
No, but you
Tom, my problem is that it's not just the...
She's a lawyer, she'll know.
Yeah, but as you left that time, I was just about to say that it's not only in Ireland that you were attacked. You're attacked by these papers, you know?
So we get our papers out again. Bloody hell, yeah.
He says, Sunday Express, a disgraceful book full of hateful things, right?
No, a lady in the Sunday Express, the guest writer, who's also known as the Salvation Army of television, if you must know.
Okay, Daily Mail. It's
Daily
boom
Mail,
week for the
Sean
slob
was quite
genre.
funny.
That's a publishing acronym for slagging off
It is not.
biographies.
He invented this acronym.
Okay, but he says that Eamon Andrews is not a good subject for the slagging off biography because he's just boringly respectable. And that seems to be the view that everyone had. He was a conventional Irish Catholic.
But he's not boring respectable now because I've made him something different in the book.
No, you haven't, Tom. Nobody believes you.
Oh, he is boring respectable now, is he?
He is. He's boring respectable. He was just quite a nice, faithful, shy, reserved, kind man. If that's boring, then that's boring.
I mean, Gilly Cooper, who was a long-serving panellist on What's My Line. Everybody loved Eamon, said Gilly. He was kind, he was good, he was absolutely straight.
Where did she say that?
She said it to us.
To you?
Yeah. I mean, we did our research. As you're a researcher, you know how best you can do that.
She said that in the Independent.
Well,
is that, are you the
my
Independent?
researchers do the research, and they
said
make
that.
sure they authenticate quotes. Gay Byrne, a friend of Eamon's from the age of 12, you've probably heard of
we're
Gay.
just trotting out the old stuff from the Independent. I mean, you've got more...
Gay Byrne is a personal friend and colleague of mine. And he said Tom Brennan obviously didn't realise, quote, when the piss was being taken out of him by Eamon.
22
unquote.
years? You take the piss for 22 years? Didn't have the
I think
wit.
it's more important to ask Tom why he wrote the book. Don't you think? I mean,
Well, I
did he
really
feel
wanted to
obliged?
find out, at the
What?
end of the day, what was the purpose?
Yeah, why
does
did
it
you
serve your purposes well, Tom? Does it serve anybody well?
It makes his bank manager happy, probably. Surely at the end of the day, he just wrote it for a bit of money,
Now,
Tom.
this is typical. This is all I get.
What altruistic motive did you write the book for?
Would you like to read... Can
No,
I
I
quote
don't want
now?
to read anything.
Yes, you can quote.
Right. If I can find my glasses. I will quote from two publishers. One said, "Our experience is that it is the loving fans of the famous who buy biographies